Well, the South African Weather Service has issued an orange level 5 warning for rain in Gauteng. Some of the anticipated impact includes the flooding of roads and settlements. Traffic is expected to be disrupted, with major roads being closed or impassable. Our reporter Heidi Giokos is following this story. She joins me now. Heidi, always a pleasure to speak to you. I can imagine on this very wet day. I know that you are in Raod this morning. What can you see around you, especially as the downpour continues?
Yes, Faith, we are here in Raod in Johannesburg, and I must say the rain persists. It's been persisting throughout the night, and this is, of course, going to be a huge risk for road infrastructure, but also lives. We do know that a level 5 warning has been issued by the South African Weather Service. I'm just going to move out of shot and ask my colleague Percy to just show you that this particular road has been somewhat damaged. And it is probably expected to deteriorate even more as the rains persist. It has been cornered off, given the fact that it's not safe to drive on. There is a bit of a water drainage system to the left of me that's obviously somewhat collapsed because of the rain. Quite a very busy road. You can see that cars need to slow down because they cannot use both sides of the road. And it's probably going to get worse, Faith. We do know that emergency services have indicated that everybody should drive with caution and make sure that if you see a road that is flooded, you do not pass low-lying bridges or try and get through, because with the eye it might seem as though you can get through it, but sometimes you don't realize the pressure of the water or how much water actually is there. So it's rather concerning, especially because a level 5 warning has been issued by the Weather Service, and it doesn't seem as though the rain is going to stop at all. I must say I've been standing out for a few minutes. It hasn't even been 5 minutes, and I'm completely drenched. So one can only imagine how much water is accumulating, and the rainfall, obviously, because the rain is not stopping. Emergency services, as I mentioned, indicating that those living near the riverbanks, living near low-lying areas, need to be extra careful. I think what else has been issued by the emergency services is you need to make sure that you do not go to any rivers. We recently saw how there were certain rituals that were taking place, and people, of course, don't sometimes realize how serious the water flow is and how strong the water flow is. I think that's the word. So oftentimes they get into these rivers to perform these rituals, and then unfortunately lives are lost. So everybody's just expected to just take caution, and if you don't need to go out, I wouldn't go out. I would stay in bed all day and watch Netflix or eNCA. But you know, of course, people need to get out and be out and about, but just be cautious because the rain is not stopping.
Heidi, you and I have spoken extensively about this infrastructure and the lack of infrastructure when it comes to our roads in this, especially in this province. Right now, potholes are going to even cause an even further danger, because you can't necessarily see the depth of a pothole, especially when it comes to rains. And then there's issue around the stormwater drainage system, right? We don't have adequate stormwater drainage. We know this. And that's what causes a lot of the flooding, because we just don't have adequate infrastructure and stormwater drainage facilities and systems that are in place to be able to at least weather the storm. You know, how are we faring in being able to speak to that? And at this moment in time, you kind of ask yourself, where's the local municipality?
Yes, I think that's a massive problem, and that's probably what causes flooding in a lot of the areas, is that the drainage system is often clogged with a lot of rubbish, and we often don't see those drainage systems working the way they should. For example, if I just take a look at that drain, I wonder if we can take a walk. Maybe I can ask my colleague Percy if we can just actually take a walk and just show you. It seems as though this drainage system might be, you know, operating, but it speaks to the infrastructure that is clearly deteriorating, and because of the persistent rains, it's obviously going to get a whole lot worse. And this is the problem, is that our infrastructure is just not coping. It's oftentimes not maintained. You spoke about the fact that there are potholes, and it's obviously getting worse because of the persistent rains. But it actually does seem as though this is a bit of a bit of a river or, a bit of a flow here where the water is getting through. But again, there's a lot of rubbish here, and obviously the pressure on the road is being felt now because of the persistent rains. But again, this is where local municipality needs to come in and maintain the roads and maintain the infrastructure, especially because we are expecting rains to persist. I mean, we always know that around this time of the year there are persistent rains and heavy rainfall. So obviously something more needs to be done to maintain these roads and make sure that not every time it rains you have damage to infrastructure and roads. Something needs to be done to fix this and make sure it doesn't happen. I'm going to ask my colleague Percy to actually just show you that part of the tar is actually lifted, Faith. You can actually see that the rain has lifted the tar. How does that happen with rain? What, was this not done properly? Is it just because the rains have been so persistent? Again, infrastructure damage and maintenance of roads is clearly a problem.